We haven't gotten a chance to catch up on the Xi-Trump summit. Donald Trump has been touting it as a victory for him. Right before that summit, ASEAN and China struck a major deal where they elevated their ties
Upgraded.
in direct
Yep,
response.
upgraded there too.
They
Yes.
upgraded it
Yes.
directly in response, citing tariffs, citing the economic environment that is being supercharged by the U.S. So more and more so, we see the West, we see especially the U.S. mainstream media noticing the writing on the wall when it comes to the direction China is going in its advances.
Well, okay, let's try 2 short headlines for Trump-Xi. First one, it was a pause. Not more than that. The pause may last a few months, maybe, but it was a pause. The trade tariff tech war will continue. The tech war continues all the time. The trade tariff war, a pause. And that's more conceptual. Basically, without saying it on both sides, it's there's a sort of managed decoupling already in effect. So the decoupling is going to be more or less a done deal in a manner of could be months or in a manner of 1 to 2 years. The Chinese are focused, and this is something that we saw during the deliberations of the 5-year plan, the 4-day deliberations in Beijing. The next 5-year plan is going to be approved in March, in the 2 sessions in March next year in Beijing. But what they discussed essentially during these 4 days in Beijing, the lineaments of the 5-year plan, once again, their internal domestic markets problems that they need to solve, and most of all, the supply chains and their spectacular trade advances all across Asia. And in the case of Russia, which is a very important partner, Eurasia, and Central Asia as well. Okay, the whole of Eurasia, let's put it this way. So these were the most important things. And not focusing on the threat of perennial, if that's the case, American tariffs. Once again, the American market for China now is relatively small compared to the global South market. The American market for China is 12% and less. What matters for them is the global South, and especially Asia. Asia is over 50%. Europe is still important with them. And that depends on the Europeans. The ball is in the European court. If the Europeans continue to see China as a hostile competitor, or stupid terminology coming from Brussels, they're going to lose. So the Chinese are cool about all that. And once again, that feeling of self-confidence, right? So you see everything is interlocked in terms of the success of the SCO summit in Tianjin, the success of this ASEAN summit in Kuala Lumpur, and how the Chinese got to the Trump-Xi meeting, basically saying, look, we already told you what we expect from this relationship. If you want to have a relationship between adults and with mutual respect, we're all for it. If that's not the case, we'll continue to do what we are doing according to our own national interests. That's it. Perhaps, Danny and all of you, Trump got maybe 4 or 5 words of all that, Basically, we could boil down in Trump terms, I better not mess with these guys. They are too strong. What did he say a few days later?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
China is too strong. Russia is too strong. Xi and Putin are very smart, blah, 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 blah. So apparently he got the message, which is already enormous in his case. What does that mean? The most plausible consequence of all that is that we could have, from the point of view of Trump, not necessarily the Trump 2.0 circus around him. Maybe I should not try to get a deal or try to press China and Russia because I won't get anything. But I can get something if I unleash my fury over these different nodes in the global south. Yeah. And it's not by accident that immediately after these summits, the Venezuela case now is on top of the list everywhere. And the threat to intervene in Nigeria, or threats against Colombia and Mexico, you name it, you know. Yeah. And they might sooner or later try something even in Central Asia. Don't forget, we had attempts of color revolutions in Kyrgyzstan and Kazakhstan.
Right before Ukraine, right? In Kazakhstan. Yep.
And guess who saved Kazakhstan? Was Russia. Russia saved Tokayev in Kazakhstan. So we could see, we can see a rearrangement of the chessboard in these terms. Okay, Russia and China, I can do it. But the other ones, I can do it like this. And that's why it's so much more dangerous for everyone in the global south, because he can unleash his fury and the fury of the American administration anywhere, anytime, bypassing international law. They don't care. They don't care. They can kill people just like that because they want to.
Yeah.
So now that this the change of paradigm that we saw in the first few months of this, during this year, since he came to power, the end of the rules-based international order. Now it is no rules whatsoever, international chaos, completely. And even worse, with the leader of the empire completely out of control.
Given what you just said there, that is so critical. We have people like Pete Hegseth literally in spewing the doctrine of the so-called War Department, saying straight up, no legality. Lethality is the mantra now.
Yes.
No?
Yes.
or a tepid legality, he put it. To be quite honest, we've seen Donald Trump mirror this and say, no, we're just going to kill and blow up. And if we talk to even the U.S., even U.S. law, if we talk to Congress, we're only, passing them notes like in a classroom. We're not asking for any approval or disapproval or anything like that. We are now in a moment where Russia has advanced militarily. China has advanced militarily to a huge degree, but Russia in particular, in the context of this Ukraine conflict and the expiring New START treaty in February, this mess that the Trump administration on the one hand inherited and then on the other worsened, how does that factor into affecting any kind of, as you put it, strategy to go after the weaker links? Because that doesn't go away. What's happening in Ukraine, maybe you can talk about what's happening in Ukraine doesn't go away. The fact that there are major forces inside the United States pushing more toward Russia and Europe as well with their new military plan. You probably saw that. They're all pushing toward long-term conflict with Russia. There hasn't been any let up with China, despite all of the various rhetorics and whatnot that we hear. So that's a lot to handle. I just don't, I wanted to, especially with the expired nuclear treaties and out of control and chaotic administration like the Trump administration is.
Well, in the next few days, when I go to Moscow next, I can get deeper into your question from the Russian point of view. Looking from the outside for the moment, they seem to be quite relaxed. Once again, their self-confidence in terms of their nuclear, the quality of the nuclear knowledge that they accumulated, and now it's spread out in so many different projects. What's happening in the battlefield? Everybody knows, including the famous Pokrovsk drama, that's been going on since forever. Soon there will be no more drama. Pokrovsk it's over. And the fact that they continue not to be in a hurry, which is quite extraordinary considering all the pressure and some of the pressure inside Russia, some, let's say, crypto-Atlanticist strands, they are pushing Putin to do something more radical. No, okay. The guidelines of the SMO won't change. And they have not changed in 3.5 years, over 3.5 years, and they won't change. And if the front collapses in the next few weeks, or the front collapses in 2020, late 2026, it doesn't matter. The Alaska thing, the Anchorage thing, they went over it. They already did a sort of requiem of Alaska. They understood that this could not lead anywhere, and Trump didn't have one single decent card to play in Alaska, and he didn't play in the end. So the Russians continue to do what they're doing. It's fascinating because in parallel, the Russians and the Chinese continue to do what they're doing in different fields, and including in their strategic relationship, as if the US didn't even exist in many aspects. For instance, early this week, the Mishustin visit to Beijing. This was immense in terms of importance. You know why? The guy who organizes the nuts and bolts of the Russia-China strategic partnership in terms of implementing projects and discussing with leaderships, the guy who does that is Mishustin, the prime minister. It's not Putin. It's not other ministers. It's the Russian prime minister. And that's why he was received personally by Xi Jinping. And Xi Jinping said, Lola, fantastic. You're a great friend of the Chinese people. When the president of China says that to somebody, wow, it's because you're up there, And, of course, we trust you. You're one of us. So the level of entente is really at the highest level, and nuts and bolts, and in terms of everything. For instance, I doubt if people in the Beltway know that it was signed by law. The Chinese promised the Russians that they will help financially big Russian companies in case of a possible NATO attack against Russia, and vice versa. It's a mutual investment economic protection signed by law at the highest level. So if anything more radical happens with Sberbank, for instance, or Lukoil or Rosneft, apart from sanctions, the Chinese will be there. They have Russia's back. So this is all part of the Russia-Chinese strategic partnership, and it's negotiated up there. And in most cases by Mishustin in person. That's why this visit was so important. They were discussing, among other things, the total supply chain and development project between the Russian Far East and the Chinese sphere, and Central Asia and the Chinese sphere. So this is a geoeconomic integration of the development of the Russian Far East, which is a matter of national security for Russia. The 5 Central Asian states, especially the 4 Central Asian states. Turkmenistan is a very idiosyncratic player. They are a gas republic, isolationist, but they're doing fine by themselves. And they don't get into geopolitics. The 4 Central Asian states and China. So this whole area will be development and as a sort of extra Belt and Road inside the Belt and Road by themselves. So what do we see? We see the expansion of the Belt and Road idea, project, foreign policy, overarching concept, geoeconomic concept, etc. Started 12 years ago. In Central Asia, now it's implemented a little bit everywhere. And now it's getting to the Russian Far East. And then we see the Belt and Road in direct contact and interrelating with everything that they discuss at the Vladivostok Forum every year. Like I was there a little over a month ago, and they were around tables discussing exactly that. And they very important, there were South Koreans as well. There were Mongolians. There were a lot of Southeast Asians, Indians, and of course, very, very important, everybody that is everybody in the Russian Far East, talking especially with the Central Asians and the Chinese. Look, we need more integration. So this, the mind-boggling complexity of this integration process, I think it's too much for the Beltway to absorb, Danny. It's too much. It's too remote, too much, and we have this idiot ambassador in Kuala Lumpur talking about supply. Does he know anything?
Does he know what a supply chain is? Yeah. No, I don't think he does. I really don't. Well, you can see it in the optics too, Pepe. I mean, even in the meeting, I remember hearing before Xi and Putin met in South Korea, Donald Trump and his administration saying, we're going to go and we are going to talk to China about helping us with Russia. We heard that 1,000 times under the Biden administration. Then Donald Trump goes and meets with Xi Jinping, only gets about 100 minutes. And in those 100 minutes after, none of the readouts talk about Russia at all, because it's almost 100% a guarantee that over the phone and all the planners and everything that goes into these meetings beforehand, I'm sure the China side was like, we don't talk about our relationships with other countries.
Strategic partnership. And there was not even a mention of China stopping or refraining from buying Russian energy.
Yep.
Gosh. Okay, I think this. Well, the only explanation is that this is for a pure U.S. domestic consumption. This blah blah blah. No? We're going to go there and going to teach a lesson to these commies.
Yep. Well, and hope that nobody pays attention just 10 minutes later after the meeting is over. That none of that actually happens.
It doesn't work like that, exactly.
I think part of the difficulty for the United States to understand what's happening with regards to integration is that really the forces in charge in the United States have absolutely no interest in what it takes for China and Russia to integrate with the rest of the world, which is all of this massive investment in infrastructure development and trade networks, developing trade routes, and of course, developing the kind of prosperity you need to do all of this. You've said on other programs that we're kind of going through it for the United States and the Empire of Chaos, almost like a constant repetition of history with regard to regime change, Venezuela, moving across the board, because those who control the levers in the U.S. tend to be the same people.
Well, it's one of the things that two of my best sources in Washington, they are now out of Washington. These are OGs. These are the original gangsters. These are the ultra hardcore people in the old school intel community. And it's very interesting because they always commented on my articles on Asia when I was with Asia Times, especially. And a lot of people in the intel community in DC or in the Beltway, they used to read Asia Times. And they were telling me, look, you're being too naive. It doesn't matter who's president. It doesn't matter anything. It's the same old people. They are totally invisible who control and run the show all the time. And these guys had met these people. And they had worked with these people. And of course, and they were always telling me, look, you never see them. The decisions are not made in public. The decisions are made in exclusive meetings, in lavish clubs across the East Coast, or maybe dinners at the Harvard Club in New York. And that's it. It's extremely private. Nobody has access, only them. And they decide what comes next. For instance, these are the people who decide that, yeah, that guy from Arkansas, Bill Clinton, okay, let's test him. If he passes the test, okay. Same with Obama. And Obama, as you know, and all of you, our audience, know, he fooled everybody. He was groomed to perfection. But he had to be approved by these guys. And in fact, some of these guys groomed Obama, of course. And some of their emissaries, like Zbig Brzezinski, personally groomed Obama. So that's how it works. So obviously, Trump was also vetoed, and they said, okay, let's give this guy another chance. That's how it works, So in terms of continuity of government, it's all there. The whole mindset of exceptionalism, manifest destiny, a shiny city over the hill, all that mythology declined in different levels. It's still the same, and it's still the same families and the same people. Which brings me to something very troubling, which is these people probably gave the go-ahead for the new Muslim mayor of New York City. In fact, we can say that they did. Okay, let's see. Let's give this guy a chance, because they knew that what they had before, it was not working. And New York City is a perfect lab to test something like this, So Mamdani is a very interesting case. I followed his acceptance speech live, and my first reaction is, oh shit, he's talking like Obama.
Well, I believe he has a lot of the same.
Yes.
He got a call from Obama, and I believe he had a lot of the
you
same.
Bet, you
team
bet.
Behind
Oh my God, it's a revamped Obama, and he was very, very clever.
Of course,
nurses from Uzbekistan, Senegalese taxi drivers, bodega owners from Yemen, abuelitas from Mexico. That was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
MAGA was losing their minds, but the problem is that New York City actually is comprised of exactly those. I mean, it's supposed to speak to the people who live in the U.S., live in New York City, and that's a big part of it.
The absolute majority of the people who live in New York City, these are the people. My greatest pleasure when I was in New York City was always to talk to the working classes. Yeah. The coolest people in New York are the working classes. No question about that. But is this guy, will this guy have a chance to implement at least 10% of what he promised? I wonder.
Well, Wall Street owns New York City, so he'll have to go through Wall Street. Yeah, no, it's a really interesting situation, and I feel like the reason why somebody like Mamdani wins, the reason why we even have someone like Donald Trump is there's these, I think, misconceptions among different political strands in the United States of how to address the major crisis confronting the empire of chaos, which is its ultimate rot and decline and its downward trajectory. But ultimately, especially when it comes to Donald Trump, it's a fantasy to believe that someone like Donald Trump is, just because the old way isn't working, that somehow Donald Trump was going to come in and say, we're going to fix this, and we're going to turn inward. That's just not how, just like you said with the Malaysia U.S. ambassador not understanding supply chains, it just doesn't that's a misunderstanding of how an empire works, an empire driven by transatlantic capital. I mean, capital does not sit around looking to reinvest in one of the most indebted and most expensive places in the world, which is the United States.
Well, I'm very curious about what's going to happen in New York City. Makes me want to start coming back to New York, which was one of my bases years ago.
Yeah. Well,
former capital of the 21st century. Now, for the moment, still only capital of the 20th century, and ex-capital of the 21st.
Yep. That's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. Well, Pepe, do you have any final thoughts before we head out of here? You know, this is a historic time. Next time we talk, you'll probably be in Russia or
I'll
somewhere
probably
else
be
in
in
the world.
Russia. Yes. Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
So maybe any final thoughts on what's
Well,
ahead?
let me try something auspicious just for a short break. It's related to our conversation. Today, I saw the first rough cut of the documentary that we shot in Xinjiang. And I think we have a winner. A lot of people are going to be extremely pissed by this documentary. I already relish it from the start, because we are showing real life in one of the key hubs of the largest economy in the world. Real life shown by the people who actually live there, and making a connection between the glorious past of the Silk Roads and of course, the Western regions, as the Chinese used to call Xinjiang, and now for the future. So it's one of the things that drive me, because when I am in Asia, when I'm living in Asia, your perspective at least is not as tainted as when you are in NATO-stan, in the collective West, or in the US for that matter. As much as I miss the US a lot, I grew up knowing more about the US than Latin America for that matter. So, and of course I miss it, but I miss the US of real people. And of course, witnessing a military coup detonated by the US when you are a kid, that stays with you the rest of your life. So, you know, when I have that minister of Venezuela talking about the relationship with Vietnam, people with an iron will, we can teach a few tricks to the empire. We totally understand what he's saying. Because at the time, and coming back to, you made a reference to Anwar talking about Bandung in 55. This is very, very strong here in Asia. Here in Thailand, in Malaysia, in Indonesia, obviously, and all that. And in conversations with diplomats and with businessmen, now they're saying the difference is that in 55, after Bandung, and then with the non-aligned movement in the 60s, we were not strong enough. And we didn't have enough power to counteract the empire. Now we do. But comes back to that unanswered question in the beginning of our conversation. Do they have what it takes to stare down an empire totally out of control? In terms of political organization, I don't think we're there yet. I don't think we're there yet. And obviously it would be Putin and Xi together, calling a BRICS meeting and said, guys, okay, now everybody sits down here and we need a concerted geopolitical position, considering everything that's going on and disaggregation of the empire. Are we going to have that? Not for the moment, unfortunately. I don't think so.